What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Miley Cyrus's eighth album, Endless Summer Vacation. Miley Cyrus, of course, coming off the biggest song release of her career, the biggest song of 2023 thus far, of course, Flowers from early January, already over 650 million streams on Spotify in 2 months, the longest running number one thus far of 2023, number one in many countries. Miley up to number four, Spotify monthly listeners, over 80 million monthly listeners right now. Crazy start to an album cycle for Miley Cyrus, but I think it really speaks to just how effective and relatable and moving Flowers lyrically is to many people. Obviously there's the intrigue, tabloid, social media intrigue of Miley shading her ex, Liam Hemsworth. But even more top level, the lyrics of being better on your own and being able to do things on your own clearly is resonating with a lot of people and has got, I think, tremendous anticipation up for this Miley record. I think Miley overall is obviously incredibly talented as an artist vocally. I think people all know that at this point, but she's an artist that also has not been afraid, but willing and happy and clearly intentional in jumping across genres and sounds of the type of music she makes. Just think of the wide range of music we've got from her over the last few albums, right? Obviously, you have bangers, big pop, to Miley Cyrus and her Dead Pets, which is really out there, then to more like country pop with Younger Now, kind of more rock leaning, 80s disco vibe, at least a little bit, on Plastic Hearts from 2020. And now we have Endless Summer Vacation, which is almost like a full circle moment where it's probably the closest Miley has gotten to what Bangers was, like 10 years ago. But I wouldn't really compare them that much either. But this is still like clearly Miley doing a pop record and putting her spin on it, which means there is still a bit of variety and change on the album. I think perhaps that gets in the way of this being like a great album. I think it's a good Miley album. I think Miley just vocally is talented enough to be engaging more often than not, but it's also not a cohesive Miley album. But then again, I don't know if that's like a fair expectation to lay on Miley at this point because that's just not the kind of artist she is. I think the lack of cohesion on Endless Summer Vacation, though, is probably more effective than it was in something like Plastic Hearts, which definitely felt like it was serving a lot of buckets in terms of like the pop rock, of the moment sound it was going for. But Endless Summer Vacation, like I said, people know Flowers at this point. But if we move beyond Flowers, what I was really looking for on this album, especially hearing Flowers and hearing, perhaps thinking what direction this album's going to go in, I was really hoping to hear stuff like Slide Away, the Miley Cyrus single from 2019, made my top 10 songs of 2019. Check that out. Her VMA's performance of that, where she did it live, uh, a cappella at times in that performance, incredible, better than the studio recording. That is like a great example of, I think, Miley's songwriting being really engaging, but also Miley vocally just wowing you with her tremendous vocal strength, but also the, I think, rawness that she can imbue in those strong vocals that not everyone else who's a strong singer can do, at least not the way Miley can. I wanted to hear more stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not expecting her to belt her heart out on the entire album. Endless Summer Vacation is pretty svelte, 13 songs, 43 minutes. You get some of that on here, but probably not enough for my personal liking. I sound like Jaded, track two, right after Flowers. The passion in Miley's vocals as she kind of belts out Jaded, this long note. Sounds great. It's so good. It's very convincing from her. I love hearing that kind of stuff from her because I think it's just really, really raw and also quite fun, because I think she just does it so well. And the moments where you get other stuff like that, it really stands out to me. I think of something like, gosh, I mean, just going through the track list here, I guess like Muddy Feet on the Bridge, at least a little bit. You have like that Miley warble. It's kind of similar, in terms of like her impacting you with raw vocals. But you don't get it a whole lot else. I think right after this we have Rose Colored Lenses, which I think is all right, followed by Thousand Miles, a duet with Brandy Carlisle. I think that is a really great song. The guitar kind of really picks up the tempo. Brandy Carlisle clearly playing second fiddle, in support of Miley vocally on this track, perhaps restraining herself a little bit. But I think Miley really like leans into the song, especially in that second half. That feels like a song that's gonna be a hit in the Flowers mold. Obviously, not to that degree, but that's probably a hit off this album. And I feel like that's a song that's going to last and affect people in terms of what it's about. Um, I think you vocally, or sorry, lyrically, I think I really enjoy that one. Just Miley giving you like some of those one-liners I think are really hitting people right now. Like, I'm a savage, but you looking past it. Just like kind of like lines that she like just throws out there that I think are really hitting these days. Handstand. I think the start on that one is interesting. Um, Kind of unexpected though. To that point. Just like thinking like you have that, and you have like right into that, like you have River, right? Like River, the pre-chorus on River, Miley like drops the key, like a clear key change, and it's like so catchy. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like pseudo bangers esque, and I think that's what's so both confounding and fun about Miley, like being a fan of her, but also what perhaps holds me back from ever loving completely any of her records is like moments like that where it's like, oh man, this is a great direction that you're so good at, but you barely do it on this album because you're going to do some other stuff that you're kind of good at too. Like compare Jaded to River, which has these incredibly catchy, writing moments to it. Compare that again with something like Wild Card, which has this massive chorus. There's just, I think, like a lot of ideas here, and not just like song construction ideas, but like ideas for Miley as a performer. Like I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but like she's just kind of an artist that I would love her to really hone in on something. But perhaps that this is what Miley is. Miley's a chameleon. Miley can wear many hats, and she wears most of these hats pretty well to really really well, and I think that's fine. Honestly, I'm just trying to put even more, I guess, expectation on her, which probably isn't fair. But I think overall, it's a pretty good album. I think like in terms of like takeaways, right? You already have Flowers being such a massive track, right? So like in terms of this album, what it was setting out to achieve, clearly we've established that it wasn't like Miley's first great cohesive record. We got past that. So what are the takeaways here? I think like there are some like really catchy sticky moments, whether they're like one-liners in terms of Miley's songwriting, like River, like I said, River is catchy in terms of how it sounds with the melody, but also River lyrically, I think it's like really like, as Miley put it, like very nasty, right? Very like matter of fact, and in Miley's songwriting, which I think is going to catch some people. That already has a catch some people in a good way. That song already has a music video, so you can tell they're probably pushing that one. I think Thousand Lives, the Brandy Carlisle duet, is definitely going to last for sure. And then I'm curious what else kind of lasts, but I have a feeling that this album, even if you took the success of Flowers aside, like I just think that these tracks are probably going to stick around a bit longer than some of the Plastic Hearts tracks. And overall, that was an album that I thought was pretty solid too. There's more, I think, to really immediately latch on to. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Miley is a person who's going to wear many genre hats. That seems to just be her vibe. But at the end of the day, she's a really great singer. So, you know, there's worse sins to commit as a musician. So let me know, how'd you feel about Endless Summer Vacation, the eighth Miley record? There's so many versions of Miley. Is this your favorite version? Did you wish it was something else? Did you wish it was more like Bangers Like Me? Let me know. And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.